All right, well, with that, let's get started. Welcome back to episode 45 of the Slide In Podcast. I'm Braeden Anderson. This is Kelly Gallup.
Welcome back.
Today's episode is brought to you by the Kelly Inn, which resides in West Yellowstone, just a few hundred feet from the National Park's entrance. While they're open year-round, the shoulder seasons, April, May, September, October, and even November, perfect time to visit. The Madison inside the park is now open year-round, which means you can fish streamers at dawn, then be back in time for a hearty hot breakfast with the family. One of the best parts about shoulder seasons is being able to explore the park while the crowds are light and the animals are active. Streamer bite tends to be more consistent during these months as well. The famous Bob Jacklin Casting Pond sits right next door. There are plenty of ground floor rooms, so you can walk straight in with your fly rod after a long day on the water. When you're ready to relax, unwind in the indoor pool and hot tub. Book your stay at www.yellowstonekellyin.com and use promo code SLIDE2025 for 15% off your stay. The Kelly Inn, family-friendly comfort and world-class fishing all in one spot. Thanks, Kelly Inn, our sponsor.
Thank you.
All right, let's jump in. Do we want to start with kind of what Nathan's comment was about streamer school? Because I found that to be kind of interesting. We're doing streamer schools right now, kind of in the midst of it.
It's kind of hard on Kelly's ego.
It's a little hard on Kelly's ego. Why?
Yes. I'm not sure I've ever said it, but I mean, we're going to school, but I've done that seminar hundreds and hundreds of times, and I've never been asked a question either.
So what's the question that?
It wasn't a question. He said that we have, when we're doing retrieves, right, and we go through 3 basic retrieves and blah, 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 but then we go into the walk fishing and how we do creeks and upstream and everything we do with that. And I have you filmed it, that when we're on the rock wall, and I'm doing that really short retrieve.
Is that with the flatliner, the chartreuse?
Yeah.
White?
Yeah. And so, a lot of times you're fishing creeks, or even here, I mean, the windows of opportunity are really short. You're fishing upstream, In this particular case, we're talking about fishing on foot upstream because it's too fast to get out in the river and fish backward, towards the banks. And so, a lot of times we'll throw up, and we usually tell people that you want about an 8-foot retrieve before you run out of a lot of, that's usually pretty normal. And then shorter, like a 6-footer, you've mentioned it, I think you mentioned it on one of the podcasts once, where you just hit 1, 2, 3, bounce that fly 1, 2, 3, and pick it up and cast. Well, Nathan had a guy in the boat from school, and he kept throwing it out. We're in the mid-river, fishing, I think he was fishing a bank. I don't know if they were fishing flats or if he's in the bank. And he throws out there, and he'd go, wham, ba-boom, and he'd pick it up. And about the 5th time, he goes, why do you keep picking that up after 3? And he said, well, Kelly said, and I did, but he had it out of context.
Yeah.
He goes, well, we really need to fish the whole river. And it was, polite as Nathan. I fished with him and Matt yesterday. It was fun.
Nice.
We had a blast.
Did you guys get any fish?
Yeah, a few. Not many. It was tough. It's really skinny. Yeah. But anyway, I'm pissed that I'm not sure I ever talked about the duration, the distance and coming back. I mean, there's days when you fish banks and you fish, or it depends on your structure and your river, but you might fish 10 feet only.
Right.
But there's days when you need to know that you need to fish it to the boat. Yeah. Low waters, sometimes, there's all kinds of things, but it was just, you need to hunt the whole thing. If you've got a bank, maybe you got a drop, maybe you got a ledge, maybe you got a bucket, now you come up on a flat, you need to hit every one of them contour lines. And to think that I've never been asked that or mentioned it in literally 26 years of doing that seminar, no one's ever asked me, and Nate says in his normal charming way, why'd you tell him that? I didn't tell him that.
It's great bedside manner he's got.
Why'd you tell him that? I didn't. And then I'm like, holy shit. And I've no one's even said, well, how far back do you pull it?
Yeah.
And maybe we do say it. Maybe we say it when they're in the boat, you want to fish it all the way back. I don't know. I just realized I had to go make notes for my program in the morning saying it needs to be addressed. And we're addressing it. Sometimes there's no way to say when that is, but one key, and it's a physical impossibility to stop this behavior. When you go to pick up a fly to cast and a giant's on it, you cannot physically stop your rod.
No,
it's impossible.
It's in motion.
When you go to pick up, you're, oh shit. You can't stop
Well,
it.
beyond the actual like reaction time of it, right? Once that fly's moving, your rod's bent. Then if you stop, you're probably just going to get a really tight loop going backwards, right? Like
or he eats it. I mean, when that fish is on it and it does that swirl, it's the same. Everybody goes, oh, shit. But if you ever see that, it should tell you your fish are chasing.
Yes.
Right. You got to have telltales that tell you they're
just like
chasing.
Key indicators.
Yeah,
right?
like maybe if every fish you hit the fly and you barely move it and they're hitting it on the bank, and great, you got bank fish, whatever. But I would never want to just stop. You still want to. Every cast isn't going to produce a fish, so you start. You're just databasing points. You're saying halfway back fish are eating. You should be looking at your water, going every time it's on a ledge or every time it's on a hump or whatever. It tells you where your fish are sitting that day. But to have never once addressed it, that's pretty bush league.
Okay, so I think what you just said is something I'm not sure we've talked about on this and that. Like, we always talk about where fish sit, right? And we want to fish where fish sit. Well, fish can move not only day to day, but throughout a day, right?
Yeah.
You talk about that, but I'm not sure
That I
we've
spend
mentioned
a
it.
lot of time on.
Yeah.
But I've never mentioned the fact that the only way to establish it is to hunt the fly all the way back to the boat.
Right.
It's amazing. That's how it came up, I think. We got talking about, we were on the Jeff going into Hell's Canyon, and I said, it's the only place I've ever figure eighted a fish. And that was a big one, too.
Yeah.
Ate it 3 times. It's under the boat. I could see a son of a bitch.
Yeah.
And Kip was rowing me, and it's like, just going, gosh, oh, shit, oh. And he banged, but.
Okay, so also for those who don't know what figure eighting is,
keeping your rod tip in the water, and it's a musky thing.
you draw a figure eight and try to get that fish to.
In the musky world, you tend to do big cauldron sweeps that are bigger, but you can do. I've done it with pike. I swear to God, they get hypnotized sometimes. You do it really short.
Yeah.
But I've never actually successfully got one until that, and that's, I think, what made him go, why do you tell him that? No, maybe not.
Well, I know he's there's certain rivers that I think of when I think retrieve all the way back to the boat. And the Big Hole is one of those. Yeah. Like I will, because you never know where those fish are, especially because it's tannic and you can't really see where they get on it.
You miss a lot of the drops and stuff.
Yep. And then this river, we go out and fish. I always think about it with Johnny because I think Johnny's the first person I heard say it. This is a long retrieve spot, right? Yeah. There's spots where you only rip it off the bank, and obviously...
Especially mid-river flat, so you cannot cover it with you can't do that with a short, because you know which side they're on.
Right.
When this river's a bell curve, it goes banking up to the middle, you hit this and come across it, you would have a hard time, figuring it out. I mean, if you watch people, I was thinking about, I started watching the boys even, who are both really good casters and real efficient.
Besides Nathan. Never mind.
He's a really good backhand caster, too. But he was running that lightsaber thing, whatever the hell it's called.
Badass glass.
No,
the one that Russ sent him.
Yeah,
the 9-weight. The white, kind of a white one, yeah.
But
off-white.
Yeah, it was just, it was a good, those guys like to do that double hand crap. And you sure shit wouldn't drop a rod under your elbow to double hand 3 feet. I mean, you want the whole retrieve, right?
Yeah.
And so, it was just something that kind of, to think how many times I've done that seminar, I'm not sure. Somewhere in there, I know somebody in the seminars said, hey, and how far back do you pull it to the boat? And I know but as a point of reference to say, listen, this has to go.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting point. It's like, I have never really thought about it. I assume I'm going to retrieve as much line as I cast until I'm ready to cast again, right? But
I don't know.
But it depends, from a boat, I think it varies more versus if you're on foot. It's the point we make about doing that 3 taps or whatever, 3 jerks before picking up and casting in. It's trying to get someone to fish it short, right?
Yeah,
Where they're
that
not
was all about a
throwing 30
6-foot
feet.
retrieve.
It's all
6
about
to 8.
short casts, short retrieves, moving fast.
Yeah,
But in the
because-
boat, it's a much more valid question.
And you really need to be looking. I mean, maybe you have a hindrance. Maybe they are all banked out. It just depends how big they're. A lot of things, but it's just the fact that I never addressed it, and it was not. You know, I don't. I in particular, we have two people. Then you can kind of do things, but when you're guiding.
Yeah.
But if it's just you and I, you got to cover water to see where they'll tell you eventually. They'll tell you where they belong, and you'll start concentrating. But it's kind of hard. One of the things on rivers like this, freestones that are fast, one of the things I preach in streamer fishing is peripheral vision, that you can't count on the guide to do everything for you, because the guide's got two of you in the boat. And you really, if you're not reading water where you can go, if you don't constantly look downstream, and you should be doing that as you're finishing up and you're picking up, it should almost be one of these things where you look down and before you deliver, because you're constantly looking here, and your rhythm can be wrong, that you hit, like there's a perfect flat, pushing out of a run, and your shit hits at the top. Well, that boat's going, depending on how fast you're rowing it, 30 to 60 feet every retrieve. So you're moving. That's if you're really working, 44 feet if it's 2 miles an hour. And so that's a long ways. And that's the difference between really good, where they look downstream and they go, I don't necessarily need to do a cast till I'm ready for that one. Where you set it like you would on foot. In a boat, you got to look down, okay, I need my fly to be in the front of that, and I need it to be right there. And so it tells you where you want to hit it, but how far you bring it out, that's going to, again, how far you're from. I like to be on the close. I don't like to be 40 feet, more than 40. That's pushing it and it's not, it's not a distant. When you're in a boat, you tend to go, like I said, 40. It's about average for me, watching my customers, their cycle between roll pickup, delivery, and it hits again is 11 seconds. On a long cast, it's 16 at the most. That's it. Slow retrieves, but then you better be humping them oars, because you are going to cover 60 feet of water as you go.
Yeah.
And so, it's just a cycle thing. So you really need to pay attention. And we've talked about that many times, that reading water is the one thing most people do poorly. Or that you see water as water, and you don't see it as a hydraulic action, like everything it touches, it's moving around. And so learning to identify, and in particular if you're a boat angler, on foot you got a lot of leeway. You can sit and dissect the thing. You can look at it, so I'm going to start at the top.
You can
and
fish everything when you're on foot.
Yeah, and even if you're bank fishing, you still get every castable opportunity, and you get to dissect. You don't have that in a boat. And one of the complaints, I can't remember who it was. I think it was Glenn Blackwood, in Michigan. It's Great Lakes Fly Fishing Company. And Glenn, when the first streamer book came out, he goes, "Jason, you didn't even talk about wade fishing." Shit, I'm in Michigan. We wade all the time, right?
Yeah.
But not the guys I fish with.
Right.
We fish out of boats.
Yeah.
We wade angling compared to boat was 5% at best.
Yeah.
We fish from the boat, and that's what we did. So I made a point on the second book to go, yeah, shit. Probably good observation, Glenn. It's true. We didn't talk about it, but just kind of assumed that you would do the same things, but they're not the same. And so that whole reading the water, peripheral down, how far do you bring that fly back? I would say you can't, because it could be a really tiny river. If we're on the upper, like when we put in at Twin. Well, you don't have to be casting 30 feet. You're only going to get 20 feet of retrieve.
Right.
Unless you can literally touch the other bank with your boat. It's really skinny, right?
Yeah.
or on the beaverhead or something like that. Then you jump up to the mow.
You can throw it 120.
Yeah, I
Bring
mean
it the whole way
and,
back.
and you got to be watching where are they coming from. There's a Scotty Hall in the window.
Shocking. Oh, he's got a fly in his mouth.
He's playing with his fly.
I think he's got a micro peanut.
Yeah, I wouldn't tell girls that.
That's not the fly, yeah. Scotty?
This is all you need to know.
The micro peanut?
Yep,
Is that your tie or
they're in.
they're in?
You're in.
in.
You're an 8.
You're an 8. You'd be a 10 if your tits were bigger.
Well, that's a good
Good info.
good info. Slidein.com. Micro peanuts are in. That's going to be a hell of a spay fly. Great
That's going to be
4 or 5 weight bug.
Yesterday we were fishing and Matt said, and he's trying to go through things, and I mentioned something and he didn't do, and he did. I'm going to go to a smoke wagon. I told him, I said, when in doubt, go small.
Yeah.
That's it, and that's we've talked about fly sizes a lot, and then how they went from so huge and everything came down. Everybody's scaling back now. They should. But in the old days, there was kind of this thing where you would say, go big or stay home. And nobody wanted to scale back to, like, I love to put on a gray ghost, just that big, right? And to that point, there was a really good, it's like Dave Whitlock told Chad, it takes a special fish on a special day to eat a 7-inch fly.
For sure.
But they'll eat a 3-incher every day of their lives.
Every
and so,
or a 1.5.
Yeah. And that micro, this whole thing, all my flies getting microed and minied, and most of it, most of that started with you guys and your spay thing, your trout spay, and there's easier. But just think of that show we shot when we used traditional small flies and how many freaking fish
Tons.
we clobbered that thing.
And probably the biggest fish, the biggest brown trout we saw in film last year
Yeah,
was on
number 4.
a number 4 conehead woolly sculpin, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's like we've talked about this, you and I have, about how I always want to do the year of the cougar.
Yeah.
And I would run 6s through 2s, and that's all I would run all summer.
Mm-hmm.
And
very
and
animal
yesterday,
size.
every fish I hooked I didn't land anything. It was on a suck factor. Oh, there it goes. Oh, they're all this big anyway.
Right.
We didn't get it. We didn't even see any big fish all day. But it was a really tough day, and Matt caught the most. I think Nate got the biggest one, but on a crayfish. But when Matt went to that single, smoke wagon, size 6, 3X hook, 1, 2, 3. Like
My
that.
best spay fish last year, brown trout, came on that smoke wagon.
Yeah.
It's a great bug.
I told that story of how I had the year. Boy, that was a long time ago. Shit, that had to be 20 plus years ago. It's my best season ever had in my life. I mean, best fall. Not fishing, we're going to get to that thing, I think, today too. Not pre-spawn, but I had, I don't remember. It was an obscene number. It was of fish over 2 foot. And they would come up on my fly, and that was, we were still a lot of single hook stuff even back then. And they would come up on that thing and swirl and turn around and have that smoke wagon 2 foot behind my fly. And it's almost like, party gift. Just eat it on the way out. I landed every one of them. I mean,
They eat
like,
it.
I would say 80% of my fish came on a fly that long. And some of them were pretty freaking giant,
Yeah.
and it's like, it's kind of ruining all these. It got me back to thinking maybe we don't have to just go giant,
Yeah. I mean, I think
Which
the
I have
big
another question about that also from my vest guy.
yes.
So I sent it
Yeah.
to you.
So we're going to get into that.
Yeah.
I definitely started fishing smaller streamers once Jake showed up. Jake doesn't fish a lot of giant flies. There's certain rivers he does, but he loves mini dungeons, mini envies, and he'll still fish
he
the
lives on
full-size
that mini
envies. But
envy.
yeah, he fishes a lot of that stuff, and he's a
3 inches.
super fishy dude. Yeah,
Special fish on a special day,
Yes,
but they'll eat
exactly.
a 3-incher all
Yeah.
day.
So I
Hard to argue with
downsized.
anything Dave Whitlock says.
Right. So I'm throwing a lot of smaller stuff now. Those I got a couple of those demo mini silk kitties. Oof, that's gonna be a killer. That's a really cool bug. You saw those. Chris dropped them off at the Wretched Mess.
Yeah, I saw him. I'm not sure I got any because
Well, I gave you the whole box.
yeah, I've not seen it.
Yeah. What do you mean?
I don't know where it went.
I handed it to you. You brought it over to your house.
I did?
Yeah. Yeah, you took it over there.
them.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple loose ones in there. He goes, you should take those and don't tell Kelly. So now I'm telling Kelly.
Fired KK.
The other thing I wanted to just mention really quick is kind of a light bulb moment I had where we talk about gridding water off, right? And, we talk about it on foot, in the boat. It's a lot easier to grid stuff off on foot and fish everything.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, in the boat, you need to be reading water and making your shots to where you think fish are most likely going to be, right? And
And ahead of the boat. You need to be
yes.
looking ahead of the
looking
boat.
ahead. And when I first showed up out here, I could throw it pretty good. And I just thought, well, they're going to be close to the bank. So I really wasn't reading water. I'm just going down in the boat, plugging it into the bank repeatedly, going,
Between you and
why am I not catching
think
fish?
That is what most, I'm always harping about the whole pulling the rope, which it is kind of like me picking on Euro nymphers. There's nothing wrong with pulling the rope. It's just a single thing. But what I see 90+% of the people doing is solely hitting the bank and ripping it with a rope pull back, 10, 15 feet and going again, trying to hit every inch of the bank, and which is great if you can. And, if you're doing it right, if you're fishing in tandem with two people, you should be able to, the back person's looking at where the front person hits and comes in. By the time they pick up, you're in that next 6 foot of water and everything's pretty good. There's no other game.
No, one trick pony.
I just see it going down the river. And we hit bank, we hit bank, we hit bank. And great if they're on the bank.
It's great.
But
yeah, exactly.
They don't have mailboxes. They do not set up in places. They roam, and this new habit of people drifting over top of their fish, dragging shit behind the boat. It's called trolling. It is so annoying for me to watch this. I see a lot of rafts doing it. They're literally going side. I wouldn't do that in a hard boat on this river. Whoa, you could launch somebody. But it's pretty brainless fishing. I don't dig it, but it's not my job to dig it either. I don't really care, but it's just, I can't imagine if somebody, it's just the lack of knowledge, the lack of what irritates, doesn't irritate, I guess shouldn't, they leave fish for me. I should be happy people do that. But that not learning to read everything that's coming at you just leaves fish for everybody else.
Yeah.
It doesn't, and you get lucky once in a while, but that is something I see, and no matter where I fish, on the White I see it. People, Jesus, talk about a river that's got a bajillion mid-river flats in it. And then you watch people, I've been there days when there's 50 boats on the river and not see a person ever come off a bank.
Yeah.
A handful of guys get it, and they do, or cycle through. That's another thing. People, you can't do that without a boat, a jet, but, to cycle one run, come up in the mid, come up, especially on the White.
Shit, on the Bighorn, on the Missouri, there's plenty of runs where you can recirc them.
Circuit up, come back through the middle, come back through the next one, they're almost all got some sort of bell curve to them where there's multiple ledges. But we tend to go bank, 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 and treat every inch of the bank as equal.
Right, and it's not. That's the point I was getting at, right, is that...
No woke fly fishing.
Right.
It's not all equal.
No.
Every bank's not the same.
Not every hole gets a trophy, right?
No,
there's... Some are unequivocally better than others, and
regardless if they think they're not good banks.
Right.
If you have water going into a bank, we could do this for 10 hours reading water. One of the most common things I see, especially on the Yellowstone, is when water, long curve, and you can see it going under and they're saying, oh, it's a cut bank. Well, yeah, it's a washed away underneath there because there's so much freaking water going through it that you couldn't stand there, or neither's a trout.
Yeah.
And it's just the same as suddenly it straightens out, and oh my God, it's like placid. And, you'll watch people stop throwing to it.
Yeah.
It's like, no, don't do that. But
Oh, I also got a quick note I just remembered I need to bring up. On the last podcast, you mentioned that Chris fishes mop flies. He said he's never bought nor fished one in his life, and I needed to.
he must do it to bug me.
He said I need to resurrect his good name from the junk fly conversation.
He must make.
Sorry, Chris.
Chris is the first one I ever knew. I'm pretty sure he's the one that told me about mobs.
Probably. He knows a lot.
Well, he's from down there, where he said they fish him down there all the time. Huh. I thought I don't have a problem with anybody fishing them. I think they're a great fly. But I thought he was the one that...
He probably told you about him. I mean, he's freaking wealth of knowledge in the world
Yeah.
of fishing, especially new random
Maybe
stuff.
he's just always picking them up and messing with me. I didn't take it. I just took it as, who gives a shit. But sorry, Chris.
So...
I showed your picture
on that note...
of your giant brown trout.
Yeah, your giant brown trout. So, Chris... there's a spot him and I have both fished in Wyoming, which he sent me to, and he got a nice fish out of there this year, not the giant one, but he's kind of talking about, it's a run in there I'd never fished, and I fished a lot of this kind of cut bank water in there, and he goes, it was the best fish he caught that trip, and he goes, of course this is where the fish was. It was high water, and he said all the other banks had water pushing into them, and this was the first one he found where the water was lined up.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what you're talking about, right? There's not a push in it. It's parallel water.
Think about...
That's where you get an actual break.
Parallel
under that
water
undercut.
is your key to all fishing rivers. It has to line up. But just think if you were a fish, and you're in a bank, and it's curved, and the water's coming in and hitting it, and you actually see it coming in and out of the bank. I mean, it's like pushing. Imagine if you're fishing and you're being slammed against the bank constantly.
I mean, it's like
no
having
real way out.
a constant earthquake under your
Yeah.
home.
So why would
move.
why would you even, I don't even throw at it. I mean, you should be able to dissect it enough. And by the way, water is fluid and it moves around all it's ever trying to do is become straight. It doesn't like that disarray. That's why it goes around a rock, it starts spinning, does the hydraulic one way, it's got another negative. And what it's trying to do is line up. If you'll look at your water, just look for the stuff to line up. When it starts being just everywhere, everything, and then suddenly we talk about mid-river flats. If you look at them, they will, and it will be a short window. The giant one might be 30 feet long. Most of them are 8, 10, 12 feet long. And you'll see the water, everything's batshit crazy. There'll be this 3 foot long, maybe wider if you're lucky, right down, and it's just placid, just plate-like. It's the only water like that, and all it is the water turns. Everything it does drops a little hill, it goes in a circle. So it comes down here, and it all straightens out, and the fish is just like totally relaxed.
Yeah.
Fins out, not having to. Big fish do not like to have to do this all day and flop back and forth. They like to just sit there, and you see in a good hydraulic, the negatives in particular, where all they do is really just push their pectoral fins back and forth to which way they want to go, forward or backwards. Yeah. That's how you get fat. You sit on the freaking, in the old days, we didn't have remotes. So it was a weight loss. You had to move 6 feet, at least once in a while.
to go change
now
the
you
channel.
sit there.
Yeah.
A brown trout could do that all day. He would do that.
Yeah.
He'd be the fattest,
Well, you don't get fat by burning calories.
Yeah. And that's when all you got to do is look at the water to see if it's aligning. Dry fly people get that.
Yep.
Streamer people have a tendency, nymph guys are starting to, the Eurocats are helping that out because especially when you're, you're leading and you have to understand what those flies are doing. Mm-hmm. And the dry flies get it. The streamer people started taking it. Not all of them, but they started we went through a process of, we just put on a big fly and huck that sumbitch out there. Yeah. And something's going to come eat it.
That's what I was doing when I showed up.
That's
it's
what
mindless, most people, right?
They just think they've got this big fly and it's going to just draw them in. And nothing could be further from the truth.
And the worst part about it is I think that there's negative reinforcement in that methodology, right? You can just go out and chuck a big fly, and you're going to get rewarded every once in a while. And you're going to think you're a hero, right?
Yeah.
That's what I was doing. And then I remember what I was getting at
Or
is
even the hits.
I had this thought of, well, I made 900 casts in that float one day, hypothetically. And I caught 2 fish. And I wasn't thinking about where I was putting my fly. I'm just jamming it against the bank, strip it off. And I was thinking to myself, well, I feel like Kelly or Johnny could have made 6 casts this entire day and outfished me. Because they're if you were limited to 10 casts, it's an exaggeration.
If you're limited to
hyperbole,
6, you sure as shit wouldn't be thrown into a push bank.
You're going to hold your shots until you really are confident that there's a fish there. The water looks really good.
Fish is there. The fly is going to get seen properly. It's not going to get pushed out of the run so fast that it really was outside its windows, which it's not like the window for streamers is not like the window for a dry fly. The dry fly is floating. It's got to come into the cone of vision. A streamer is being detected by the wavelength it's pushing.
Yeah.
And it can be giant. I mean, in this room, if that fly hits in the middle, every fish within 100 feet of it knows it's hit.
Right.
And they'll track that thing if they want to. It's different. But definitely, there are just a lot of obstacles to your fly line getting pushed, you got on one side of the rock or the other side of a log, you got to straighten it out. A lot of things happen. But if you treat it all identical, it's just shotgunning.
You're missing something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
You're flock shooting. You're not aiming.
I would say the most cerebral guys I fish with a lot, shop dudes from here, right? They're smart cats. And a lot of the time you'll see, I noticed Jake do it first, where he'll make his cast, retrieve, he'll pick it up, roll it, kind of look downstream, and just roll it again. And then he'll make his cast. And he's buying that, 8 seconds, whatever it is, so that he's got his shot at where he thinks the most likely.
He's reading.
It's all percentages, right?
He's
It's all
reading the
percentages.
peripheral zones and looking down and he's doing the exact opposite of what I'm talking about. He is not treating all the water the same. And really, even in, we talk about bass a lot, the bass guys, they do a week of looking at that water before they fish, right? They're not just throwing the sumbitch out and I'm just gonna throw this out. I got a new Van Dam, KVD, world's greatest crankbait. I'm gonna throw it out. Well, shit, now the guys hardly even cast. They just read their graphs, but they still cast a lot. But they are. That's why I'm always referring to the bass guys as being so good, because they have to go and they got all their lake mapping, and then they're just out there. They're just looking, and they're looking for every contour, every weed bed, every ditch it might come into it, anything that changes anything. And the difference is with some streamer cats, they take that, just the fly will drag them to it. And that also is why I preach about fast, slow, and medium game. If you throw that fly out there and it's a peanut envy that's supposed to be, slow roll, you throw it into whitewater and it just gets pulls out. Well, likelihood's pretty small. It's not going to get eaten. So
low odds.
Yeah, it really is. But when I do the seminar tomorrow morning, I always have to say the same thing, because there's no way we could. I'm notorious for being an hour late on them anyway, and I always tell people we could spend the entire morning and day, if we had the right footage, just looking at water and it'd be a great.
You spend a week.
Easily. You spend your whole life learning it. So it would be a great futuristic game where you could. You asked me earlier, is there any tool? And I'll say that. But this would be one where you could see water and say where the fish is.
So I see these.
And say, okay, here, boom. And then suddenly, no surface activity. No, you don't. You see right through, and you see all the hydraulic effects under the water. That's the thing about when I was diving so much. When you see the surface, you see one thing. You plop your fat ass underwater, everything changes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
There isn't that shit's not there, and you're like, well, why isn't that fish there? Well, then you see this, you'll see this dip in the bottom, and you'll see this detritus and all this shit floating around going down, and it's like, oh my God, why would I be there?
Right.
It would be a fun game if you could, some superstar like Matt, some super genius, we just took a river and pick where the fish is, and it would.
So I see that on Instagram a lot, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers do too, that I always see that going up from kind of goofy fishing channels where it's just a screenshot of a river or just a photo of a little run. There's a shelf, there's a couple rocks, there's a tail out, and it says A, B, C, D, E, F. Where's the most likely place to find a big trout?
Somebody's ahead of us.
It's just playing the game.
Perfect.
And
that may be the only thing on the internet that I think is worth watching. Well, I like that one other thing too. Not really, no.
Yeah, horse auctions.
Only when Braeden has
horse
numbers.
auctions.
Yeah.
So I've told this before, but there's a picture of a little creek behind the urinal at the Sportsman Lodge in Ennis. And I always look at that and picture where's the most likely spot for that fish to be. And it probably depends on time of day. And so this is...
How bad do you have to pee?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of things.
There's a lot of
things. No, that's, growing up, before all this stuff, when I was a kid, my mom had a painting in her house. And God, I would just stare at that. And Richie Strolis sent me a picture. I swear to God, he's on the son of a bitch. I could do it. My mom had that picture.
Really?
He goes, there's a lot of pools that look like this out here. I go, nope. I know every tree in the place. But I would just sit and stare at that picture, even as a little kid, and just say, the fish should be there, or it should be over here, or, anything I saw of water. And then when you're a kid, like when it was a different world. We played outside. We rode our bikes to creeks, and we could stay all day and not worry about shit. And you did, and you'd spend, at least I did, and I remember my buddy Mike Burrows, or Steve Burrows, Mike's his little brother. He did the same thing, but we'd just sit on the creek. You would just sit and look, and you'd watch, right? You just kind of hang over the bank, and you'd see your trout down there, right? You'd throw shit in and throw a leaf in, and they'd move out on it.
Yeah.
Throw your grasshopper with your rod attached, a live one. But you would just watch, and you would see. You may not even have known you were doing it, but you're watching the whole hydraulic effect of everything that happens in there. Fish gets into a cut bank, and you can see where the push is over here, and it's pushing him sideways. He doesn't, he's out there, he's looking for the food chain, bringing it to him, and he's getting rocked by stuff. Well, it's just water. Why is he getting rocked? And you learn to see the water like that, and it's just a difference. It's kind of like the whole looking at that picture in the shitter, but when you've guided more than 2 years of your life, you realize how little most people see of water. And we were talking it on the river yesterday about guys showing up. Nate brought up something about the guiding and how, we said about a good guide would have backups. And he brought that up. And he says, do you know how often people show up and they don't have polarized glasses and don't think they make a difference? And you say to them, you got sunglasses on, and you say, do you see that shelf? Yeah. He throws out, says, well, you're looking at a different one than me. Because, do you see that? And then they give them a pair of polarized glasses, and they go, holy shit. Oh. Yeah, talk about there's a game changer. We didn't mention that. And when we were talking about Bucky saying the things that changed the world of fishing.
Yeah, polarized glasses. When did they come around?
60s, 50s probably, I don't know. I remember when I was, Billy Robinson and I and Chet, but Billy and I in particular, we had this one kind of green lens we really dug. And they're like $4, dude. It's a lot of freaking money when you're 1975.
Yeah.
But we had our glass. And you didn't fish without that. That was in particular in the old steelhead days when you're, looking for them. But people they just don't get it. And they put on a pair of glasses and like, wow, like, holy shit, I can see in there. It's everything. You can't just look at, after a while, you should be able to, like, when Howard and I were walking, we were down here and we're talking about something, and he's looking out at this, and he can see it, and it's total whitewater. He saw behind it, and he goes, yeah, I see it right there. And he's not looking, he knows exactly where the dump is. It's just, you can't see it, but you can see it.
Right.
After you've seen enough and I preach that a lot. When you get a fish, and the Euro cats figured this out, I mean, it's the same type of water.
Yeah.
You got to put you got a 3.5 and a 2.0 here. Now I'm going to go in and drop right here, and you're going to drag her. You're not even going to touch. Howard and I, when we were fishing, filming, he would say, because he knew I was going to drop shot behind him. And he'd go, I'm too high.
I'm too high. Yeah, I'm too
I'm
high.
too high.
Yeah.
I go, and I would smile and go, yeah, I know. I'm not going to be. But there's a limitation. And you need to know, as a Euro, the guys that are great, they have limitations. As much as I make, they can only go to a 4.0 bead.
Yeah.
Right? Well, in that shit we were in, I don't give you. You could have two of them.
You
ain't
have
gonna
to
make
drop
it.
shot.
You ain't making it down there, and you need to know that. But that makes you a way better water reader because of it.
Right.
And as much shit as I give the Euro thing, the cats that are good at it, they are frighteningly good at it.
I think I
and they
mentioned-
know where to not fish.
Exactly. And I think I mentioned this before. One of my friends, Lucas, really fishy dude from Bozeman, he will use Euro as a tool, almost like, some musky guys use gear to figure out where they
Fish
are.
finding, yeah.
And then they go find. So he Euro nymphs mop flies and little jig streamers, and he fishes everything. He's a really smart dude. He fishes everything and then databases where he finds fish, and then he goes back at him with streamers.
That's
right?
how we all do.
It's just...
When I was a kid, that's how we found out. We didn't know anything about steelhead. Nobody fished steelhead in the Great Lakes until like the 60s. Nobody, and then we had seasons. You couldn't fish. You didn't have extended seasons. So half the time you can't fish, right? And then you get this extended season thing, and now we're kind of getting hip to the fact there's fall steelhead. And we would take spinners and just get in the runs. I would take no hooks. The guy that taught me, Tom Noms, he'd fish. He didn't care how you got them. And, if you got one, great. If you don't, you go back and you're still databasing. You're still fishing the damn hole. Who cares if you catch the fish, right? Mm-hmm. I would go in and just throw a spinner in there and see if one would turn up on it.
Okay, one more thing I wanted to mention.
On that note, before we move on, remember how often we talk about fish? I'm always saying how I fish with gear guys.
Yeah.
And
you're just using them.
Bill thinks I fish with him because I like him. I'm just trying to steal every bit of information he knows. And it's like, when I was a kid, we all fished gear. And the more I got into the fly, I still fish with guys in my boat, gear fishing the whole time.
Right.
Whatever it takes you to figure out where the hell the things are, when you know exactly, your retrieves will hone in, you'll fly, you'll data that, you're like, oh, they're not going to go on yellow today, they're going to do, and you'll just get all these points that make it easy.
Yeah.
But it all starts with being able to read under that water, and it's all crazy upside. And then you'll fit, but it's really quick once you
figure it
out. And some of the really early streamer stuff before I fished with guys with crankbaits.
Yeah.
And you figured it out. And spinners. When I was a kid, number 2 MEPS was your lifeblood, right? Mm-hmm. And so every time, and we fished them in creeks, for God's sakes. We fish a number 2 MEPS in a creek for steelhead and browns. That's 5 feet wide. Well, guess what? It's just a smaller version of everything else, right?
Yeah.
And they come out of the same shit. Mm-hmm. So do more. Go fish with somebody with gear.
And then the last thing I wanted to mention on the fish sitting in different places, I took my parents up to fish a very secret place today. And my mom got her biggest...
away.
What's that?
4.5 hours.
4:45.
Yeah.
My mom caught her biggest fish ever, which was awesome. Cool to see.
Man, now she's a great angler too. I got so much more ammo now.
She's very inquisitive, and she asks a lot of questions about why we're doing certain stuff, right? But this creek in particular, there's a couple of holes, and they're long, what I call dead zones in between, where they're sort of silted in. They're 1.5 feet deep.
Correct.
There's some weed beds in them, right? But it's stuff. I've fished this place a lot. I've never seen a fish in them. They're normally these fish are in the hole, either in the tail out of the hole, the bottom of it, or nosed into the front. Shelter on either side. But I kept screwing up today. I think 3 or 4 times I was approaching a hole, right? And we kind of walk up, and these fish are pretty darn spooky. And I'd just stop and go, oh, fuck, I did it again. Because there was a fish multiple times sitting in the skinny stuff behind the tail out of the hole. So like sometimes they're on that back shelf. These fish are 10 to 15 feet further back than I normally see them, and I fish this place a lot. And finally, after a number of times spooking them, we'd start approaching a lot slower and look for that fish that's at the back, because we were finding really big fish sitting back behind the holes.
Yeah, you wouldn't have done that 3 years ago. You would have been sneaking around all the time. You're just pretty familiar with the joint now.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I'm familiar with it. I know where the holes are, and I know where to,
But before you would have been.
Yeah, probably peeking a little bit out, but it was interesting. I'd never seen fish sit in those spots, but today they were. And so it's just they can move all over, even in a waterway you think
especially
really
terrestrial
well.
season.
Yeah.
They got to drop into them terrestrial zones, so.
Yeah, but I found that to be interesting. Kind of a good learning experience for me. All right, now, just so we can have a creative YouTube title for this, we're going to talk about how to fish spawning trout.
Oofta. This
question comes from Carter. He's a Billings, Montana resident.
It's the kid and his girlfriend?
Yeah, a guy and his girlfriend sent us an email with a bunch of photos of big old brown trout.
Yeah, I'd say he figured it out.
He thinks he's doing pretty good. So he said he been fished as a kid a lot, hadn't fished in 8 to 10 years. At the end of spring, something inside him decided it was time to fly fish. Good friend put him on our podcast. He's listened to all of them religiously, goes into East Rosebud a lot, talks to those guys, and he said kind of through going in there and listening to us, he's learned a lot and went out and tested a lot of these things we talked about, got into a bunch of big fish, which is really cool to see. And he says, I do have a question, however. With fall arriving, can you give some advice on how to fish ethically during the spawn? I know each river has its differences, but for me, without a boat, I mostly fish creeks. Is it as simple as avoiding the tailouts and whatever likely spawning water, or should it be avoided altogether if you don't have absolute certainty? Any advice would help. The main creek I fish is murky, so I seldom would be able to just spot them. Once I graduate from school and earn enough money, I'll be able to meet you guys and shake your hand at streamer school. Best, Carter. Appreciate the email, Carter. Kelly, what are your thoughts on kind of his question specifically? I think we can open up broader to just kind of sort of how to conduct yourself while there are fish, either pre-spawn or spawning. Well,
there's a small caveat there, but if you can't see them, none of it matters. So you just can fish it, I suppose.
But if it's murky, like they're
that's
there.
What I mean. If you can't see them, if you can't see the bottom, how would you know what?
Right.
You just got to fish the water. So, and then in which case it'd be impossible for you to target. So I'd say free willy, go fish it, right?
Okay.
Until
are you going to call me a liberal whatever?
Yes. Doesn't matter what you say.
You say just.
Haven't we established that in the last 3 years?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
If it's murky and you can't see the water, do you think you just go fish it, or is the better thing to do go somewhere where you can see?
That's what I was about to say.
Gotcha. Okay.
You have to draw that conclusion yourself. We fish all year.
Yep.
So you can sit and get on your freaking high horse. You're out there fishing in mid-November. You're fishing spawners. Mm-hmm. And by the way, for all those people that say they're steelhead, that they don't fish spring steelhead, if the fish comes up, in August, it's still coming up to spawn.
It's a spawner.
It's a spawner.
It's a spawner.
You gotta. This is one of the oldest.
If you fish steelhead, unless you're in the ocean,
you are fishing a damn spawner.
Now, I think the caveat there, right, is it actively on a bed?
Correct. Right. Well,
or is it in holding?
If a brown trout shows up and he's going to go 40 miles up a river, or if he's going to go up 10 and he shows up in September, is he spawning? Because you just told me that you saw spawning beds up at Jacqueline's.
Mm-hmm. There were 2 that were cleaned off. There was no fish on them.
That's real. Yeah, well, they come in at night, but that's really early. Here, Thanksgiving's good. I mean, that's when there's a lot of spawners, right? But it's later here. But just to answer the question, I'm going to just kind of jump off this dirty water thing. If you just go fish it, you'll probably figure out where the spawners are. And if you want to miss it, right? But you'll know if you start catching him. And here, let me just tell you what I have against. I have several things against it. One, I just think you should let them screw. You should those are your future. And the reason is, for everyone who's fished steelhead in the spring or brown trout in the fall, in particular where they're big enough that you can see this shit happen. Like where I grew up in Michigan, it was nothing to have bed with, spring steelhead. You could have 15 fish in a complex set. And the same thing can go with the brown trout. I would routinely find, complex, not as they were deeper, the big ones in particular, deeper, but maybe a set of 5, 6 fish on one or 2 active hens. But here's what I would tell you. Anybody worth a shit has caught a steelhead or a brown or a salmon that was active and ripe, and the hen will abort her eggs. If she thinks she's going down, she will spit those things out her hind end, and you will see there are 4,000 to 6,000 eggs going to drop out of that. If she thinks her life's in jeopardy, she can do anything she can to make sure her next generation comes out. So you just shit the bed on 4,000 to 6,000 fish, right? And a 94%, some say higher, percent mortality on eggs, no matter what happens. You just lost some fish, right?
Yep.
So, and then there's just the whole part of the ethics of now we're on clean water.
Yes.
Now we're on clean water, and for me,
this is where you can see your reds. Yep.
The dirty water thing's tough because if you're going to go in there and just strip streamers, if you know if it's always murky, you might not know. But if you can tell it's 18 inches deep and there's fish splashing around, you'll know.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's signs, right? A lot of time you'll see boiling, rolling,
you'll see them
slashing,
and all that shit.
If you see that, it's not a feeding frenzy.
Yeah, no, as that guy on the Henry's Foot or on the snake told us one day, just look for the shiny spots. That's where they're feeding. Whoa. Okay. But so. Yeah, I know. God, this is such a beat up subject because I don't know how many times guides have told me what a bunch of assholes are up fishing Jacqueline's, during the spawn, and I drive by one morning and here the same person is guiding 2 people on the shiny spots, and I'm like, It's just like, but it's complete. And here's the bottom line: it's legal. So if it's legal, tough shit. Legislate that shit out. We used to have laws. We used to have seasons.
Back when we were a proper country. Huh?
We had seasons. I have tried to get this DNR, anybody that would ever ask. We used to, you were closed until the 3rd Saturday in May or whatever it was, April, in Michigan. And then you closed in the fall. So you actually protected this. If they would just take sections, and everybody knows where the primary spawning habitat is. Even the redneck that just wants to go gig every fish still knows to look for the shiny spots, right? And so are the gravels all beat up. But I've always wished we would bring that back so we could just go between the lakes and just say no. May to closed October 15th or 20th, right? Yeah. That would kill me because that's when I like to go up there and fish it too. Yeah. That's when I'm getting all my huge browns. That's where you're going to find them. They're coming out of that lake. Great, you're going to do it. But now on to the practical side. The tailouts are the resting zones. Generally early season, your bucks will stop on those. The big males will stop there. And
I don't in tailouts.
Yeah. Well, and frequently deep ones. It doesn't not your traditional holding water, right? They're there
They're acting different because they're not resting.
They are not resting. Every minute of their life is I'm getting laid or somebody's getting their ass kicked. It's just what it is. It's how men are meant to act.
Yep.
And that is reality of the world. And so just like bucks and every other thing, drive from here to town right now. Every one of those female antelopes in peril of something jumping on her back every minute. I mean, it's all you see these things walking around. The bucks can barely move. They're like, watch the elk in the spring come off those hills getting followed by the wolf. They're beat to shit. We are designed to screw ourselves to death.
Yeah.
That's why you don't see a lot of big male brown trout. They die. A 6-year-old, 7-year-old brown trout is going to try to, you pick them up, you catch one, and, just find one dead, and their just backs are so lacerated and bit all this shit, and they never stop.
Right.
So now you got to say, okay, I'm going to go fish them. I'm just not going to fish active near the spawning zones. That's a good way to do it. At least then there's a chance you don't, and the females, and this is again, the females, there's two things that you got to be very careful of, steelhead and brown trout. They will cannibalize any egg that goes past them. I think it's a defense thing for their own. I don't know.
It probably is, yeah.
But if you throw an egg past a hen, she will eat it. There we go back to the whole shit about you're going to abort, she could abort all of her eggs, right? And so that's a no bueno. No eggs where there's anything possibility. You just do not fish eggs. And then you can actively see the female, right? So where in your conscience do you allow yourself to go, they're actively spawning. You should just not be near them.
Well,
and once there's too many, they're all actively spawning.
Yes.
And that's when you've got to ask yourself, you get away from it. Now, get away from the spawning areas. Like up here on the Madison, there's spawners everywhere. Shit, there's tons of them in Valley Garden.
Yep.
But you can get in the runs where there's no, spawning is 100% based on the substrate. Yep. And they're looking for a specific pea to cobble gravel. And one more thing before I go too much past this one. I don't want to forget this. Let me forget about where they are. They go into specific styles of gravel. They have to be able to root it up with their tails. And only the females do that. It's just like in the man world. We don't clean houses. The hen does. Just kidding,
Dude,
baby.
you're going to be in such deep shit.
Well, we already talked about how the females quit spawning and just eat. Yeah, I've already got in trouble for that one. But at any rate, they have to get in there with their tails and dig it, right? Which digs a depression. And so that activity should tell you that that's just a no-fly zone. Yeah. That should just be, you don't go there. Now, if you want to fish downstream, and if you'll notice, there's no gravel, there's nothing, there's big boulders, it's too hard. That's a transition zone. That's a little bit more free to me. I'm not likely to get a hen as much. They kind of get up and get their business going and they get out, right? You'll never see an old hen hanging out, right? It just doesn't happen. It's gross. They're just done. You'll see males sit on unactive beds for a month. Yeah. They will sit there. If there's the most remote scent of a hen, that's that dumbass at the bar that is so freaking hammered he can't move. He's got his drink, and there's one chick in the bar.
It's 2 a.m.
It's 2 a.m., and I got a chance. That's the male brown trout. That's dumber than a rock. Just
what's a place like you doing in a girl like this?
Yeah, exactly. And so that's what you got. So you eliminate that. Now, one more thing about the spawning bed, because I hear this so much. I want visualize what the bed is. And you'll hear people don't walk on the shiny spots. If you're gonna walk on the shiny spots.
Or above them.
But make sure there's not another shiny. The depression that the hen digs, it's a little dig, just like
it's a bucket.
Little bucket. Like you took 3 scoops of gravel out, and it's just a little tiny bucket. Hen goes in, drops her eggs, male comes beside her, drops the sperm all over it, and it's an incubator. It's a hydraulic it's a vortex. It goes in circles, the sperm hits the egg, and they all get incubated, and they wash out the back. They don't sit, it's not a bird nest. It's called a bed or a nest or a redd, but all the eggs wash downstream. So what do you see people do? They tell people, don't walk on the shiny spot, they walk below it, and they kill every freaking egg down there.
They walk on the bank, or like almost on the bank, like barely in the water, below it, where those eggs are going to
they go. In most rivers, if you look, and it's not by mistake, they'll either be in a straight run, or you'll notice that water will kick to the middle of the river. That's what saved this place's ass when all those fish up there that were spawning when the dam broke and it went dry. The hydrology of it was that there was no straight line spawning up there, including jacklins. It kicks off and it goes towards the middle of the river. And that's nature. That's saving our eggs.
You just kicked all the eggs into where there was still water.
And a lot of them end up in pretty deep water, right? And so if you're going to be out there, and I don't care if you're fishing dry flies, pay attention to the damn things. And when you see the shiny spot, realize that they could be 200 yards below that. But they will be more right below, especially when you see them.
Because they just won't be above it.
They will never go upstream. They are not quite that agile. No. And so they're just a little round thing getting pushed down, right? So just so you understand how those work. Now, if we're going to avoid certain types of flies and certain types of fishing. Streamer fishing is probably, dry fly is the least lethal because they aren't sticking their heads up right then. They're not going to eat. But if you're going to go fish during that time and you fish betas, I guarantee you none of the fish you're going to catch are actively spawning.
Right.
So it's a porn flick. They're in there for a reason. They are getting their job done and they're done. And then by the way, it's called drop back, and browns do it just like steelhead do it, and they get very voracious. And it's why your big fish come in the spring. And they kind of stay hyperphagic through that whole season. And so, but when you get a male brown late season, you have a really good chance of knocking him in the head. You're going to kill him. They're so spent. So try to stay that 2-3 weeks after active spawning. That's when I see most of my dead fish. Yeah. They're in my side channel just drunk. They're like, oh shit, can't move.
It's like what you said, they went out on top with a cigarette in their mouth.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. But they got they're all fungusy and shit from fighting. But I think that's as much as I can give you. And then it's completely your conscience. It's just what.
So that's the point I want to hit on, right? Like there's the ethics part of not, having a female aboard her eggs or killing a male, right? Where you don't want to actually harm the fish. Mm-hmm. Let's say that, just for this thought experiment, is not involved, right?
What's not involved?
The harming the fish, right? Let's just wipe that clean for a second. To me, there's a sporting aspect of it where those fish have their defenses down. Nymphing a bead over a red.
I said eggs. No eggs, no beads.
Okay, none of that,
eggs,
right?
No beads.
That is not a sporting thing to do. If you catch a 30-inch brown trout by putting an egg over its face on a red, it's not impressive to me, right?
Well, and to that point, the hen will eat the egg. Males almost exclusively are snagged. I don't care where you catch them. You floss them or you get them in a fin. But I can tell you that they just aren't eating. That's why they die.
Right.
They are not eating. And your freaking fly, I spent 20 years of my life zipping these fish off of beds. For salmon and steelhead, we did it all. That's how we did it in the old days. It's, when you go in there, the hen you'd see automatic. The males, they just start doing that shake their head shit. You flossed them. They are not there to eat.
Yeah.
Period.
So I was trying to come up, you could put whatever
Pre-season
numbers.
They do.
You could put whatever numbers on this that you want. But to me, like a ethically caught, I'm doing, what are these called? quotes,
know.
finger quotes, whatever in the air for our
It kind of
listeners.
bothered me a little bit, I was going to tell you.
An ethically caught 18-inch brown trout to me is worth so much more than a 2-foot, a 26, a 28 caught off a red. Like it's in, you may post that photo, everybody loves it. Oh, that's so cool, you got a big fish. You'll know you're an asshole.
Yeah.
You know deep down. Well, at least I hope you do.
Yeah.
But
there's the other side
their
of this.
defenses are down, right? They're so much easier to catch.
Well, like I said, the hens, they're suicidal for eggs. They don't let them pass. And the males, if there's a bunch, this is how, when I grew up steelhead fishing, when I started when I'm like 8 years old, we fished Colorado spinners on beds, and we'd plop them on the beds, and we'd draw that across the bed, and eventually a big male would get pissed off and come out and eat it. We did the same thing with brown trout. And so that's the only thing, is that they will, to a degree, until they're really ready, if there's activity around the bed. And I did it, everybody I know did it as a kid. But at some point the light flashes on and you go, this isn't good.
Right.
This is just not good, right? Some people's lights turn on a lot earlier than others. But it's just not good.
It's that first feeling when you look over your shoulder to see if anybody's watching.
Yes,
that's when you know you're doing something wrong.
But throwing blindly and hoping there's a pre-spawn brown male that's in there that's just pissed off at the world, I'm okay with that. But there's still an active spawner. He's going to end up there. Yeah. So it's kind of like hunting.
Yeah.
When do you hunt whitetails? During the rut. They are absolute batshit crazy stupid. They are just, defenses are down, hard on, nothing matters. They same thing, fight till they die.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. So there's no way to answer this question ethically. Ethically, after you've fished all your life is one thing. Your third year in, your ethics are different.
Right.
And don't care what anybody says. And I've seen a lot of guys who fish as long as I have. I see them up on a bed.
Yeah.
I've seen too many people I know, just like 30-incher, I'm throwing something at it. It's too bad, but it happens.
If you catch a fish and it's in really skinny water and it comes out and it's dark orange, probably a spawner.
Yeah, probably.
On a bed. That's indicative of being on a bed.
But to this point, it's freaking legal.
It's legal.
And until we legislate it out of our
we should close our rivers.
And until then, all you can do, and then I'd be careful saying too much about how pieces of shit the people are, because I have a little bit of a leeway with age and things and how much they've fished, and it's because I did it. And I don't, who wants to be the guy who says, well, I did it for 20 years, but you shouldn't.
Right.
Well, shit, I did it. And before I really had much conscious about it. Yeah. I aborted a steelhead. I know exactly where I was. I was in the whirlpool hole on the Pere Marquette, and I aborted a gorgeous 16-pound hen. And I remember my customer, she was mortified. It was happening right in front of us. And that kind of that changed the way I fished steelhead the rest of my life. And I also caught a hen brown, completely swinging, about a 12-pounder. She aborted everything she owned.
Yeah.
And I killed her. And I didn't even mount her. I mean, I know I killed her, right?
Yeah.
She fought herself to where she could barely swim. I let her go, and I put her in the, I got her in some good water, and I'm like, and I didn't know it at first. It was just, and I don't know if she did all of them or if she was a post spawner and still had 50 or 100 eggs in her. Mm-hmm. But that was mine. That's my wake up call. Yeah. Everybody gets one, know.
Well, like I'm not trying to tell people how to act. We're just trying to provide the information. You make your own decision. I mean, I feel a certain way about it. Doesn't mean I'm right.
You
And
fish after October 15th, you're fishing for a spawner.
Yeah.
Period. End of discussion. And if you go fishing
But I
British
try not
Columbia
to
in
fish-
August for those dry fly, you're fishing spawners.
Yeah. No,
because there's just a matter of, it's just time.
and I fish after those dates. I try to target water where there's not fish that are active.
By the way, I go to BC and fish in that time too. I love that part.
Yeah. No, but
I would say a month around, and that's why.
I try not to fish.
That's not
to
it.
fish
Don't
that
yell at me. I really do go to it. I don't believe you shouldn't fish steelhead that time of year. That was kind of supposed to be funny, and I realized I'm going to get 1,000 people. Steelhead fish spring in the spawn in the spring, right? Pretty sure you can't fish in there in BC anyway. So sorry, don't yell at me. Just kidding. I do it.
Yeah, I don't know. Do with the information we've provided. Do what you want with it.
But you just know. And
Just
you
know
can't
you're a piece of shit if you put a bead over a red.
But remember what you're looking for. And there are sections of water that has virtually no spawning activity in it.
Yeah.
And if you've got a fish in that, it's probably several days out, like even including the hens.
Yeah.
They have to mature to the point where those eggs are loose enough, they're coming out of their skein. It's got to be the day they're going to spawn, maybe 2 before those eggs loosen and come out of the skein and start getting ready to be able to spawn out. 2-3 weeks ahead of that, they're just active game fish, right?
Yep.
Because at some point you'd have to say, okay, we can't even fish for hen. Well, it's no matter what we do, it's a freaking blood sport.
Yeah.
You're still hooking something in the face for your fun. And so, but just stay away from the friggin' beds. Onward.
All right, you got something behind the desk you want to talk about?
Now we got to answer his question.
We're running out of time.
Hurry up, because I told him I'd answer it.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But I'll shorten it. Go ahead, shorten it up.
I have no idea where it is. Let me find it. I'm really
We
good.
could go to the.
I'm really good at my
It
job.
was just good on the size of the fly thing when we were talking about the fly size.
Oh yeah. Okay, so this is the guy who sent Kelly's vest, Alex.
Yes. By the way, Alex, the thing is loaded. I got it on the wall, just sitting there waiting.
I do have a question you could potentially use on a future podcast episode. I'm about 13 years into fly fishing. Didn't start until I was 25 years old. I went through almost all the phases, and I found myself wanting to fish traditional wet flies and hackles more than anything. I live in the St. Louis, Missouri area and fish the Ozarks on the Missouri side, but do venture to Arkansas once every couple of years for a fall for a couple days to fish Norfolk River.
Norfolk.
Is that what he's saying? Norfolk? I don't know.
Norfolk.
If I can relate to the streamer game, I do find myself using leeches a lot and being very successfully using a variation of semi-seal leech that I use fox fur for the collar and tail with a bead on a size 8 streamer hook in black or olive. I'm basically swinging the leeches and using both floating and sinking lines in doing so. I'm wondering when I am on Norfolk, that's what he's typing, I could be wrong, and having the opportunity for larger fish, would it make a difference if I tied and fished leeches on a size 2 hook versus the size 8? I only fish fiberglass that I build myself, which my go-to is an 8-foot 5-weight. It has more power than most think and should be able to handle a larger, heavier fly. I am interested in your thoughts on leeches sizes specifically. Alex.
It's a great question. I don't think it will change much, Alex. And a size 4, the 2 I think is just kind of, you're into big woolly buggers there. It's not, I don't think it'll make much difference, but I do think there'll be days when if you drop it up, if you go up 2 sizes, an 8 that's a pretty insignificant, that's a pretty big jump. Mm-hmm. I don't think giant fish are going to come racing over to get your fly, but I do think that it's not obtrusive enough that it would put a fish off, and it may trigger a little bit better response on those certain days. If I had to guess, there are going to be days that are pretty perfect for that style, like a little overcast, rainy, maybe a touch of, you're not going to get much color in that river, but I mean, that'll be the day, but I don't think it'll do. There will be I would always have at least a double contrast. You're on an 8, I would at least go to a 4, 2 times bigger. 2's, it's not that much. You're only talking about an eye length. And so not that big a difference, but I would definitely jump up. I would keep my tones the same, and I would jump up and to a 4 for sure. But I don't, and it's not going to suddenly bring out the predatory response that a sculpin sized fly would do. But I do think you'll have, you're going to have another arrow in your quiver, because right now you're pretty static. You're on the size you're talking about is very minutely. And there, by the way, on that river, there are plenty of 5-inch leeches in that river.
Yeah.
Plenty. It's a very rich river. And yeah, I would definitely jump it up.
All right. Wrap it up.
Wrap it up.
All right, you get something behind
again,
this?
one more time. Thanks for the vest.
Yeah.
Too cool.
No, that was cool.
Way too cool.
Let's do band of the week. What you got? I'm buying time. Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band.
I already did Bob Seger, but Frank Sinatra.
Ooh, Sinatra. Okay, I'm gonna go. I can't remember the guy. He commented, but he said Tame Impala and Glass Beams, both of which I'm a fan of. Glass Beams is some real
What did you just say in here?
Tame Impala.
What the hell is it?
Aussie dude named Kevin, makes cool music. And Glass Beams is like, you probably got to be on drugs to listen to it. I think Kelly would hate it.
Probably not my
I
deal.
like it.
Yes.
All right.
And I'm not pissed about anything because
I was pissed about that
it's fall.
dude in my parking spot last
Yeah,
night.
well, grow a set, kick him out. But it's fall.
He was nice.
Me?
He was
it's
nice.
Pre-spawn brown trout.
He was nice and he listens to the podcast, so I didn't want to
he's
kick
a
him
good
out.
guy.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I know who it is. But yeah, it's pre-spawn fall fishing. It's spectacular. Very good.
Very good.
Hope you liked it. Hope it helped you out. More comments, more questions. See ya.